The former vice president of South Sudan, who's now leading an armed rebellion, has said he may negotiate with the government. And that's according to the U.S. special envoy there, who's working frantically to prevent the country from falling apart, a situation that would harm Washington's interests. Chaos and bloodletting have spiraled over the past 2 weeks, with interethnic killings and intense battles for control over oil-rich areas. Policy reports.
It is the world's newest country, but is South Sudan already on the brink of its own full-blown divisive conflict?
You're dealing with a civil war that knows no bounds in terms of how long that would last. And of course, it has no determination as to how many people would lose their lives, not to mention those who will be displaced.
An alleged coup the vice president forced out, which it's claimed ignited his ethnic loyalists into a deadly rebellion. Yet just 2.5 years ago, the world rushed to recognize South Sudan, with Washington among the loudest supporters.
South Sudan has mining reserves, and it also has massive oil reserves. Those are the biggest interests: land for oil, mining, and agricultural production. The agents of power that have put in place the government of Salva Kiir, the agents that supported the South Sudan People's Liberation Army, would be the government of Uganda and powerful factions from the United States, including corporate executives from the oil companies. So the oil companies have served, their interests have been served by bringing the SPLA to power, which they did, and they succeeded in creating a separate and independent state called South Sudan.
Now, though, a key oil-producing area has fallen to renegade forces, a huge blow to a government that relies on the industry for just about all of its money.
Well, I'm afraid it's going to affect each and every one of us worldwide. You will see a curtail and a pullback in terms of production levels from the South Sudan, which would impinge on global world prices of oil. And ultimately, we would feel it at the pumps, irrespective of where you are in the world, when you go to fill up. So prices will go up. There will be panic in the markets. And of course, ultimately, the biggest losers will be the South Sudanese people.
Foreign fuel firms are pulling staff out and in many cases winding production down to zero. Last weekend, 4 American service personnel were wounded as their military aircraft came under fire during an attempt to evacuate U.S. civilians to safety. President Obama warns that he may take further action to keep Americans safe.
I mean, South Sudan was never, a country that had a proper infrastructure. The main complaint from the people is, where is the money going? Why are most South Sudanese on the edge of survival? And the new government is already driving Mercedes-Benz and building these huge houses.
This fledgling nation, born out of decades of civil war, is facing the toughest test of its short existence. But the population, wary of fighting and fleeing, has fallen down the priority list of those championing the moves to get South Sudan put on the map. Paula Slier, RT.
And there are plenty of factors behind South Sudan's failure to build a stable state since gaining independence. Former Ethiopian diplomat and expert in Africa, Mohamed Hassan, told us what he sees as the main reasons.
Now I see it is the political conflict came from above, and they could not solve their own problem, and this problem brought into a division in the army and then the society. Of course, external forces probably are playing also their own role. As you know, Southern Sudan, there is a very big wealth, and this wealth is supposed to be a blessing for the people of Southern Sudan, but now it's becoming a nightmare and is igniting a sectarian war, which will be very dangerous for Southern Sudan, and not only for the people of Southern Sudan, also for the region.